Happy Monday, everybody. Continuing the theme of 2 videos a week, we're going to be doing a little bit more Legends of Runeterra content. So, again, I'm sure I sound like a broken record at this point. The beta is going to be happening again on the 14th. I will definitely be on top of that again, trying to play as much as possible. But until then, I'm sure there will be plenty of people looking for how to play, just some basic stuff. So this video is actually going to go over a lot of the basic things with Legends of Runeterra. I did a couple other videos where I kind of touched on basics here and there, but it was mainly more so for the actual deck archetypes and how to play them and what the decks were like. So this one, we're going to be using the Elise deck from the original video. So if you do want to check that video out on the entire Elise deck, link's going to be below. Go ahead, check it out. I'm sure there'll be something in the YouTube as well. Go ahead and click it. But this one, we're just going to keep it simple. Going to go over attacking, battle phase, everything on the map, what it looks like, what it does, and hopefully this will help some people that if you are going to get involved in the beta on the 14th, which I also hope to do a video on to hopefully let people know how to access the beta if it's going to be open, which I do believe this one's supposed to be open, so more to come on that. Hopefully you'll be able to just hit the ground running, start playing the game, and get involved in a game that right now I feel is pretty freaking awesome. Wow. All I can say is wow. This game, Legends of Runeterra, this is a thing, and it's gonna be a thing. It is a very good card game. It takes a lot of stuff from a lot of different card games. At least, in my experience, I've played Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z, Magic, Hearthstone, all of pretty much every card game you can think of. Even Inuyasha and Yu Yu Hakusho. Rip Yu Yu Hakusho, loved that game. So sad that they killed it by just like breaking it on like I think it was the 3rd or 4th set. I digress. This game is amazing. They did a great job. So with that said, I'm just going to get right into it. We're going to get started with the menu and then work our way into a game. And again, I hope this video is informative for everybody looking to get into the game. And when it comes out, I highly recommend it. Alright, so we're going to get started with the menu. I know it seems kind of, hey, it's a menu, but figured might as well. This is a basics video, so want to get through everything that involves the basic stuff of this game. So you can see the menu over here on the left-hand side. Pretty simple. You have home. Obviously, we're already on the home page. With that said, I think the graphics and the art for this game are on point. Then we got play. So play is obviously, you pick a deck, you choose versus AI or versus player. You can do the tutorials that they have, and then voila, you're into a game. Collection is, it starts on your decks. You can also import a deck. I don't know what they're doing with this as of now. I haven't seen any deck codes. I haven't actually used this yet, but I imagine once the game has a full release, this will be fully implemented and look a little bit better. It seems a little simple as it stands. You can go to cards and you can separate by every single region or faction. I'm used to calling it faction personally. I think the game calls it region, but there are 6 different regions you can see here. We got Demacia, Frail Lord, Ionia, Noxus, Piltover and Zaun, and Shadow Isles. So these are all reminiscent of League of Legends, so it's pretty cool to see them in this game. Very similar to how Hearthstone is all based on WoW, and I've played League of Legends for quite some time, and it's very cool seeing these champions in a card game. It just, you get that nostalgic feeling, right? Right now it's on all regions, so you can select and kind of filter by just that region. What I've noticed is that when you pick a region, it looks like it puts the champions at the top. Usually you're building your deck around the champions since they tend to have the stronger abilities. And it's usually your win condition. So in this case, we have Demacia here, and usually your win condition is drop the opponent to 0 life. Fiora, as an example, actually, if you kill 2 enemies with Fiora, she levels up, and I'll go over leveling up in a little bit. Once she levels up, if you kill 4 enemies total, you win the game. So it's kind of an alternate win condition. So there are more ways to win than just bringing them down to 0. We'll get into that a little bit more once we get into the game. So you do have the champions up the top, and then it automatically sorts by cost. So you go all the way down, you get the highest cost cards down here. Pretty easy to make your way around this. As far as the decks are concerned, so you can build a new deck down here. When you create a new deck, you can name it, you can see down here, 0 out of 6 champions and 0 out of 40 cards. So there is a 40 card max. You cannot build more than 40 cards in your deck. This is very Yu-Gi-Oh-esque. Hearthstone was interesting. They went with a lower card count of 30. So Yu-Gi-Oh had 40, but you could build more than 40 if you wanted to. Typically you wouldn't, because obviously you want a thinner deck to draw the cards that you need. Magic is 60. So you have all these different, variants of how many cards should be in the deck. I personally think that 40 is spot on. When you do build a deck, you can have 3 of any card in the deck. With champions, you can also have 3 of each. However, you can only have 6 champion cards total in the deck. So usually you're going to see a combination of 2 and 2. So as it currently stands, which I'm going to show you right here, if I pick 3 regions and try to put 2 Lucian, 2 Braum, and we'll throw, try to put 2 Zed in there. It says you can only add cards from 2 different regions to a deck. So the second that I saw 6 champions, I kind of thought you could do 2, 2, and 2. I hope that they change that in future releases of the game, but for now, you can just do the 3 and 3. That's the basics of deck building. Pretty simple. Rewards is down here as well. Basically, the more that you play, the more rewards that you get, and it's actually pretty easy to get rewards. The good thing too is that so I actually recently finished the base reward line. So in the beta anyways, it was 0 to 100%. You can get all the rewards. I got to the end, I got the final reward, and what happened was it actually loaded up all of these regions. As you can see here, Demacia, everything's in here. They all have their own line of rewards, so it's pretty cool. With that said, the store, which you can't see because my my window's blocking it down here. The store is right down here in the bottom left corner. It's the last one at the bottom. So there is a starter bundle. This is kind of the currency in the game, are these coins right here up top. You can buy additional coins. So see, $500, 1,500 coins. But they've already made statements stating that the idea of this game is not really to just buy your way to victory. And I kind of like that idea. So it's more based on these wild cards, which you can buy, but you cannot buy a billion of them in one shot. You can see it only says 6 in stock, so you have to wait. So it's pretty interesting how they do that. Kind of puts everything on an even playing field. And this is just a looks like a history of all of your purchases and stuff. So you can actually see all the wild card purchases that I made in here as well. So now we're going to get into a game, and I'm going to go over some of the basics of the game. So what I'm going to use for this is a Shadow Isles deck. So, getting into the game, the first thing that you see is your first 4 cards that you draw. Both people have 4 cards. It's not like most games where one person has one more than the other, which is another interesting thing that they did to kind of balance this out. Both people start with 4. You can mulligan all 4 if you want. You can keep your whole hand. So you do that by clicking these replace buttons down here. Generally speaking, as with any other game, you want to keep the lower cost ones. So I'll go ahead and keep these 2. You click OK over here. This button on the right pretty much does everything. It's how you pass phases in your turn. It's how you pass rounds, everything. So here is kind of the start of the game. On the left, you can see we got a bunch of stuff going on. So I'm going to go over the left side first and the right side. So first you got the Oracle's Eye. This shows how spells or combat will act. Use it when it's your action. So we'll go over that a little bit later, but generally speaking, when somebody plays a spell, it's going to show up in the middle here. And it's going to show you how they're going to play out. And it'll in what order too. So it's kind of like, again, similar to Yu-Gi-Oh! In the way that, and Magic, in the way that there's a chain that you have to pay attention to as to what happens first, second, third, and fourth. Obviously, if something does damage before a shield or something pops up, it's going to matter what order it's in. So over here, this scroll, you're going to see all of the things that happen in the game. This is reminiscent of Hearthstone. On the left, you can see that timeline of all the different cards that were played. So this is also very good. These are the life totals. Blue is you, red is your opponent. You always start at 20. You cannot go over 20 health as of now. I imagine that will also change. I'm not sure, but you cannot overheal at this point in the game. Up top here, you see your opponent's name, the deck that they're playing, what type of faction or region that it's from. So it looks like this is also a Shadow Isles deck. and this is how you basically mute them or prevent them from, using emotes. Down here, same thing with yourself, and you have your own emotes. Kind of like the emotes in this game. I think they're pretty cool. They're funny, they're cartoony, and they're very League of Legends-y. So I like these. So up here you can see how many cards are in your opponent's hand. If there were to be a card that was added into their hand that because it was from a card effect, then the card will actually be flipped over and you'll be able to see that card. This is their deck as well as your deck. If you click and hold, you can see how many cards are in the deck by left clicking. Over here, you have the mana, which I'll get into the spell mana in a little bit. This blue line around here is actually the regular mana that you get every turn. So you start with 1, next turn you get 2 mana, next turn you get 3 mana, and so forth. So that's very typical of most games. The difference is this spell mana. So let's say I had this 1 mana and I didn't spend it this turn. It goes into these 3 right here. It's going to go into this reserve. So next turn, I'll get 2 mana, plus I'll have the 1 mana from the initial turn. I think this is great. I think that it kind of curbs out if you have a crappy hand in the beginning of the game. It helps out a lot. So this is something that I think makes this game right here. I think this is one of the best things this game has going for it. This sword, you can see how it's lit up here, and this one is not. And you can also see how there's a defense symbol on his side and an attack symbol on my side. So you can only choose to initiate an attack when you have this right here, your attack token. And it alternates every turn. So next turn, he'll have the attack token. That's by default. There are cards and abilities that will allow you to either refresh your attack token, or he could play it on his defense turn and give himself an attack token. Although I've seen that happen, I haven't seen anybody actually attack on the turn that they have the attack token on their defense turn, so I'm curious to see what they do for that. But I do like that idea of being able to play cards that allow you to kind of twist things a little bit in attack. So again, you do win by bringing this number down to 0 by doing damage. All these creatures, this has 2 attack, this has 1 attack. They do damage if they attack directly. Or, like I mentioned before when I brought up Fiora, that's an alternate win condition that you could use. Also, there are additional subclasses. So like I said, we both are playing Shadow Isles right now. If you look at some of these cards, none of these have them, I believe. But at the very top, in the middle of the card, the mouse won't let me hover over it. At the very top center of the card, if it were a, let's say, spider, it'll actually say spider. So it's kind of a subclass, so to speak, that, I haven't, it works, in this deck especially, it works with the spiders. So you can see at the start of round, level up if you have 3+ spiders. That's a perfect example, and that's one of the things that this deck aims to do on a consistent basis, is get spiders on the field so that Elise can level up. This is actually a very good first hand. Now, we did just draw a card. You can see that our opponent also drew a card. So again, we both have 5 cards. That's another interesting twist to this game versus other games where I draw on my turn, they draw on their turn. Pretty much everybody has a turn every turn, and it's a little bit of a different twist. It's interesting, but I definitely like it. So to summon a creature, you hover over your hand. It brings your hand up so you can see all your cards. You click and you drag. You cannot actually, for whatever reason, drop it here. It will just go back into your hand. You have to drop it into the field, and then it will actually go down here. Most creatures have some sort of audio like that. So now, after I play my creature, I am essentially passing my action part of my turn. So even though, again, this is very much both of our turns. So after I play a card or a creature, the opponent then has the option to play something. At that point, they can either play a slow spell, which we'll get into in a little bit, or another creature like he did. So he decided to play a 1-cost creature. This one says play, grant an ally in hand ephemeral, and reduce its cost by 1. So I don't know which one he did that to, but one of these in his hand now has the effect of ephemeral and reduces its cost by 1. So you can see that both of these have attack and defense. So like I just mentioned with the life total and how to win, his has 2 attack, mine has 1 attack, and that is on every creature. Even if it has 0 attack, you're going to see a 0. The amount of effects in this game, considering that it just came out and it's in beta, is pretty astonishing. I'm not going to lie. They have a lot. This one, the one that I played, Hapless Aristocrat actually has a Last Breath effect, which is essentially a death rattle effect. This effect is in almost any card game you've ever played. When something goes to the graveyard or something dies, you get an effect. So in this case, he summons a Spiderling, which is a 1/1 spider token. In order to see, and this is great too, because in Hearthstone specifically, it's kind of difficult to see. You can't bring up cards that are created by cards very easily in the game. In this case, when I right-click this card, the card comes up, but any other cards that are associated with it come up behind it. So I can actually see Spiderling, and you can see up here, like I was talking about earlier, the subclass. So that's very, very helpful. I think that's honestly a very awesome feature that they added to this game. His effect was a play effect, so just, you know, from your hand to the field. And then Ephemeral is yet another effect. If I remember correctly, actually, here we go. We can figure out what the Ephemeral effect is by right-clicking. And the other thing you can do is hover. So if you hover over any keyword that's highlighted in yellow, it will have a tooltip pop up. So this one says, get this effect when you play this unit from hand. This one is, this unit dies when it strikes or when the round ends. Down here, I didn't mention this earlier, but this is also the rarity of the card. So this is a common. And I think, yeah, this is a common as well. So now, I have gone, he has played something as well. Now it's my turn again. If I had more mana, I could play something else, and then it would go back to him. It would keep rotating like that back and forth. In this case, I have no mana, so my real only option right now is to choose to attack if I want to. In order to enter the battle phase, you click your creature, you drag them up here, and now you see your attack token light up. Now, you can take this back by doing that. It's easy. Most things work like that. If I played a spell in the middle, I can drag it back. So it's very forgiving, which is also another good thing that I like about this game. Hearthstone, there's a lot of times where you could just drag and, oh crap, I played their card, I didn't want to. I've definitely had that happen to me a few times. So now, see, this is what I was talking about with the Oracle's Eye. So when I drag this over, it kind of tells you what the final numbers would be with math. So this is very, very helpful. And this is more so helpful when you have, you know, multiple spells going off in a turn. So I'm going to go ahead and attack because his Death Rattle will spawn another 1/1 anyways, even if he blocks with this. So, and I will go over blocking in a second. He didn't block, so you can see now on his turn, the attack token switched to his side. So you see the sword on there and the shield on this side now. So it looks like he's playing an Elise now. That's the one that was granted Ephemeral, because it's also a cost of 1. Now we both have 2 mana, so every turn the mana goes up by 1. So now I have 2. I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is actually play... So I have a couple options here. I can play Elise, and then it will go back to him, and he can choose to play something else or enter the attack phase. Or I can play this spell. Or I can play this spell. Now, something I do want to mention is, in this case, my opponent, his turn began, and he decided to spend 1 mana on summoning a creature. When anybody's turn starts, and you already have creatures or monsters or whatever you want to call them in play, you can decide to enter combat immediately. If you enter combat immediately, it puts your opponent at a slight disadvantage because they have, at that point, they cannot summon. You can only summon prior to combat. So your opponent at that point cannot get anything else into play to block or something like that. So sometimes it makes sense to actually attack first, then summon, you know, maybe summon his Elise after combat to punch through that damage. So in this case, I'm going to actually summon Elise. So Elise is a champion. A couple things going on here with his attack. So he decides to attack, which means I cannot summon anything else if I had more mana. So now we're committed to the attack phase. One of Elise's abilities is, as you can see, attack, summon, and attacking Spiderling. And that is why there is another Spiderling here, specifically attacking. Now, what I do want to go over really quick, she has Ephemeral because of the Oblivious Islanders effect. So Elise is going to die when it strikes or when the round ends. So no matter what, Elise is dead, which is actually good for me. So I'm probably not going to want to attack her. The other thing with Elise, because I have one as well, and you'll probably see her level up in a bit. When I have 3 spiders in play, she's going to level up immediately. So, and that can also happen in combat. So when we block, I'm going to go ahead and block that with him. And I'm going to go ahead and block that with her. When you block, it's no different than dragging in to attack. And just like attacking, you can switch, you can pull it back, you can do whatever you need to do, you can switch them around. Now, you see what it just said there, units with 2 or less power cannot block Fearsome. So another effect that Elise has is Fearsome. Can only be blocked by enemies with 3 or more attack. So in this case, my Elise only has 2, so I couldn't block her anyways. Like I said, there are a lot of effects. I'll probably have a separate video on that to go over everything. There's way too many to go over in one video. So we're going to go ahead and block.
So young.
And now you can see all of the damage happening, calculating. Now, one thing with damage I do want to mention is that you can see here, hers says 2-2. That damage is going to stay on. Damage stays throughout the game. The only way it doesn't is if there's a specific ability called Regenerate at the end of the turn, you actually regenerate back to full. There are a few characters that have that. One of them, Braum, the champion, does that. It looks like he played a spell as well. And so that's what actually allowed him to get... I have the same spell in my deck. He allowed him to get 2 Spiderlings. If an ally died this round, summon 2 Spiderlings. And that's what... he has on his field now. I have 1 Spiderling, and I have the Elise. I need 2 more, and I can actually level up. So I drew another champion. I want to try to level up the Elise, though. So now we're going to go over spells, because I am going to play this spell to get Elise leveled up. Now, unfortunately, I don't think I can get Elise leveled up this turn, due to them probably blocking, but we'll see. So spells have 3 different types. There's slow, there's fast, and there's burst. Slow is essentially a spell that cannot be played during combat, and your opponent can respond to it. So your opponent can counter it, your opponent can play another spell that will happen before it. Spells resolve backwards, so that's another thing similar to Yu-Gi-Oh! If you play a first spell, and then a second spell, the second will resolve, and then the first will resolve. Fast is able to be played during combat, and your opponent is still able to respond with some sort of counter or another fast spell to, you know, create that chain that I just mentioned. The third type of spell is Burst. Burst can be played whenever and cannot be countered. They happen immediately. So burst spells are very, very good. A lot of burst spells like, you know, give your creature +2/+2. Those are great for the middle of combat. In this case, this one I'm going to play outside of combat. Fast. He can counter it if he wants, but I'm going to drain 1. Drain actually deals damage and then heals you for that amount of damage dealt. So I'm going to end up going up to 19. And you can see here, again, if I move over this eye, when I put that in there, it's going to show me exactly what the result is going to be of me playing that card. So it helps when there's chain reactions with spells to kind of go over this eye and see what's up. Again, this button is pretty much for anything that goes on throughout the game. So he summoned another creature, Scribe of Sorrows. When I'm summoned, create a copy in hand of an ally that died this game. So I'm not sure what that copy is yet, but I guess we will soon find out. I can attack with Elise. Because of the Fearsome, he won't be able to block it with this. So that's good. So I'm going to go ahead and attack so I get the additional spider token, which you can see if I hover over the eye that I'm going to get. I'm going to go ahead and just attack with that. Now, he's probably... Okay, yeah, that's kind of what I figured.
You dare!
So now, Elise's effect would have only resolved if that Spiderling made it through combat, and then she would have leveled up. So unfortunately, we couldn't get it going that turn, but we'll see what we can do here. So I'm going to go ahead and play another champion, Callista. Now, Callista's interesting. Callista has a lot of interactions that... they're odd, I guess you could say. I'm going to go ahead and play her. When you play Callista, you can see I bond with an ally, it takes all damage for me. So you choose an ally. I'm going to choose a Spiderling. If she were to take any damage in combat from blocking or attacking, this Spiderling is going to take it instead. Now, the other interesting thing with Callista, which I love about Callista, is that if this Spiderling dies, she's going to bond with another Spiderling. It's any ally of the same title that's going to work with. So it's very, very, very good. And I think after he plays that, I am going to pass. So I'm going to go ahead and block. pick a follower, create an ephemeral copy in hand. Okay, so he just picked this one and he has another copy of it. So I'm going to let that resolve. I'm going to go ahead and go through battle. And now I've had a creature die. So this is now active. So this is actually Callista's champion spell, Black Spear. If an ally died this round, deal 3 damage to an enemy unit. So, champion spells. Champion spells are interesting. I had this in my hand before I drew Callista. Because of that, it doesn't have an additional effect. If I were to draw another Black Spear while Callista is in play, an additional effect will be added to this that says shuffle a Callista into your deck. So you can see this here. It shows here. Now, if I were to draw another Callista while Callista's in play, another interesting thing happens. That card changes into a Black Spear while the other Callista's in play. That is because you can only have one champion in play at a time. So it basically changes into a card that's useful. Okay. Once the Callista dies, it will change back into a champion and you can play Callista again. So kind of cool how that interacts with champions. I very much like that effect in this game right now. So what I'm going to do is actually play this Black Spear because now its effect can be triggered. I'm going to do the 3 damage. Click OK.
Every betrayal sharpens our resolve.
And again, this is another interaction, so you get the audio from it. And now it's my attack phase. Now you can also see she levels up after 3 allies die. So I had a Spiderling die there. So that's 1 of 3, as you can see, it shows you right there. Now, champion effects can happen while they're in your hand or deck. In this case, this says I've seen 3 allies die. So I'm not quite positive how seen is taken in this game. I imagine that's either from your hand or the field. She was on the field. I want to say it's actually just from the field, but you got to take that into consideration. Somebody like Teemo basically says after you've shuffled 15 mushrooms into the opponent's deck, it levels up. So Teemo is counting from while it's in your deck. If you draw the Teemo after you've shuffled 15 into your opponent's deck, it's going to be drawn as already leveled up. So that's kind of neat. Same thing with Elise. Elise is only at the start of round, level up if you have 3 spiders. So if I had 3 spiders in play, I could play her from my hand already leveled up. So that's kind of good as well. I could play Brood Awakening. Now this is a slow spell, like I mentioned before. It's going to summon 3 Spiderlings, and it will evolve the Elise because that'll then give me the 3 that I need. Now,
Go ahead.
I'm playing this because I'm playing against the same deck as me, pretty much. It's kind of a risky play if you're playing against some other decks because they might be able to counter it, so just keep that in mind. This isn't going to level up until the start of the round. So once this attack is done and it switches over to them to my opponent for the attack, then Elise is going to level up. So that was a good play on his part. He did the 2 damage and then also did the block.
Smooth as...
However, Elise is now leveling up. Frenzied Skitterer gives all my spiders +1/+0 when I play. So this is an awesome card to combo with all of these spiders. So I'm going to go ahead and play that. Now another thing I want to mention too with combat is that when you're in combat, everything resolves from left to right. So these 2 over here are going to attack before these. In Callista's sense, if she were to see 3 people die before her, she's going to level up in the middle of combat before she gets attacked. So that also matters as far as the order of the things that are happening. Now you can see all these spiders too. They have Fearsome and Challenger. That's one of the leveled up Elise effects. Other spider allies have Challenger and Fearsome. Watch these 3 mana. This is what I was talking about with the spell mana. See how they go over here? So now technically I have 10 mana this turn. The thing you have to keep in mind is that if I had a creature that cost 10 mana, I could not play that creature. Creatures can only be paid for with this mana. So you got to be careful with your calculations that you're not, thinking that you can play a creature when you can't. Just going to go ahead and attack everybody. We're going to pull this to this. That is what Challenger does. So after I attack with anybody that has yellow around them means I can pull them in that direction towards that other card. So I'm going to make this block that because it can't kill it. So that's actually pretty good. So there's not much I can do that. Or actually what I can do. So this is a chain. He is deciding to drain 1 on this Elise, which will kill it, and then summon him a Spiderling. In response, this is a fast spell, so I can either play a fast or a burst. So I could kill my own unit to prevent him from getting the Spiderling, or, which that doesn't make sense, I can use this on one of his units, or I can kill my ally, since I'm already going to lose it anyways, to draw 2. So I'm going to do that. Kills it, draws 2. This no longer has a target. Now it resolves. And now he's playing. Now, yeah, he played another burst spell in response. Because that resolved without a target, he wasn't able to drain 1 to summon the Spiderling, and he didn't have a Spiderling. So that's a perfect example of the way that the chain works as you play spells on this. Another thing to take note of, you can only have 6 creatures in play at once. So if I were to play Brood Awakening right now, the Spider Allies +1/+0 will happen, but I won't get any Spiderlings because as of now, there's only 6 creatures that you're allowed in play. Block, and now I can play this fast spell to kill him. Because again, we can play the fast spells in the middle of combat, and then we take block to basically set it in stone and send it through. And now this doesn't take any damage, so I'm good to go. 1, 2, 3, we'll just attack with everybody just in case. Now, theoretically, if he had some sort of spell that, you know, he could play to destroy all creatures, then he could have still killed my field there and lived another turn. And this is the after screen page. You get experience and stuff towards the rewards that I mentioned earlier. And yeah, so that's pretty much it in a nutshell. There's the basics as they currently stand for Legends of Runeterra. I'm sure a lot of that will change. I'm sure most of it will change as this is the beta. But honestly, overall, this game is great right now. So I will be releasing more videos on Legends of Runeterra. I hope this video helped. I hope that y'all know how to play Legends of Runeterra a little bit better now. Some of the finer features. Might do more of an advanced tutorial at some point as well, maybe when the second demo comes out. But I do hope this helps. So comment below if you have any questions, or if you think something's a little off in the video, definitely let me know. But until next time, I hope shit just works for you. Peace out.